line different than another line, or what makes their line different than another line, kind of with the idea that y'all are the ones pitching the client directly. So who more needs to know what differentiates a brand from another but you guys? So that's our whole why. We do it in close coordination with partners like IDS and Skylar. Thanks so much. And is Emilio going to be on with us today, or
he'll be in the Naples one?
Oh, he'll be in the Naples one.
For everybody that doesn't know me, I'm Skylar. We're family owned and operated. I think everybody here knows that. My dad is Emilio. My mom's Linda. And we're just here to help you guys get with great designers, get with great events like Lee, and find the best products. So if you guys have any questions afterwards, feel free to reach out. I do mostly our iDesign source online. If you haven't heard about it yet, I can tell you more about it. If you need a little demo on it, I can also give you that. So.
Yeah, thank you so much for hosting us and opening your arms and all that for us. I appreciate it. So everybody along the channel, from the brands to their trade partners locally, to the teachers on the way, and all the community builders that help get product, through to you, and then for you to guys to share it with the designer. With the homeowner. That's our whole why. We were lucky to partner with Laurie. I'll throw it your way in just a second. We were introduced to interior design community about a year and a half ago, and she's got an amazing platform that is designers solving challenges for designers. And with that, Laurie, I'll throw it your way just to introduce yourself.
Sure. So we started originally 13 years ago on Google+. We've grown that. We grew that to 100,000. We have 126,000 on Instagram. We do a popular blog, a podcast. All of it is in effort to connect people together and share information, learn from one another, and be your support. We work with brands who sponsor us, so it's free for designers, and we try to give great education. So when I first met Lee, I really was telling him, I've been doing this for a very long time, and the questions I get are often business related. You want to know how to make more money. You want to know how to get more clients in the door and how to make more profit and how to get better press, and all of it stems to make more money. So our conference side, we have some really interesting topics. We're going to be covering, obviously, raising rates and when that makes sense and when it doesn't. It's certainly like if you have, you're adding staff. The second panel will be about all of the strategies for systems and how you work with your systems. And the next day is the one I'm so excited to bring to you. And it is in the morning, we're going to do how to create video content. And I know you're a little intimidated sometimes about video content, but we're going to make it so easy. And then we're actually going to send you out, literally step-by-step apps to download, scripts to write, how to do it. It's going to unlock that for you. And then we're going to send you out on the floor and have you create content with the brands. And then the last one will be AI for productivity. So all of those pesky things you don't want to do, like blogging for better SEO, or how to get those reviews on Google, or all of the things that you just don't want to spend time doing. We're going to go through those step by step and how to build AI automations to let it happen for you. So that's our conference. We'll also have some style spotting. We're going to have a big dinner in between the two nights. We would love for you to come, and we'd love for you to be a part of it.
Thank you, Laurie. So, Laurie, there's the only one thing you haven't explained is why you're not here right now.
Yes. I live in New Hampshire.
You just want to point right behind you? You want to point just right behind you? Like
big white mountain.
We're getting 2 feet of snow. I bought 2 plane tickets to get out of here because I saw the storm coming, and both were canceled. So that is what it is.
So anyway, we'll have Laurie with us. She's been with us since our Arizona event. Great collaboration, because as I am for the brands, she is for the designer. And that's what we were lucky to be introduced to Pam Durkin. And I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. I'm really happy to be here. So my name is Pam Durkin. I'm actually an interior designer. So I'm a practicing designer, and my practice is in Naples. I started my business. So I've been in design for 30 years, started my business in commercial, and then transitioned to residential and commercial in Naples. But because I've been doing it so long, and many of you may feel the same way, is at some point you're like, what's next? What's next for me? So what I'm doing now in my professional life is that I'm also coaching interior designers. And to Laurie's point, what I'm helping them do is learn how to be magnetic to the right clients, learn how to be profitable, and learn how to attract the best type of clients and understand who those people are. So I have something called the Luxury Client Academy, and that's my coaching program. I also have an in-person event that's coming up in May in Naples, where we get together in person and we actually tour homes upwards of 35 million. So you get to see some of the great design details that are happening in Naples. And I also have a podcast called Six Figure Designer. So there's lots of topics there on how to talk about certain topics with clients, how to properly, I'm trying to think of how to vet a client properly, why you may be having one or two problems in your business and how to solve them. So you can definitely check out all those episodes. But I'm really happy to be here, and I'm so happy to be introduced to Lee and Laurie because they seem like a real powerhouse. So again, just to your point and both your points is just that we're trying to lift the industry up and really help designers just love what they do and then also be able to make money at it.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that. We've got a few questions that Laurie and Pam had planned, and it's kind of they're all in what the ethos of Design Edge is. But Design Edge, the focus isn't about Design Edge. It's about solving for the gap between the brands and the designer. There's so many opportunities for brands to be able to have more of an impact on you individually, on your firm, making not just the product, which goes in the home, more seamless, but the service and the support that they have through trade partners like IDS, but also that they have internally that you guys may not even be aware of. So this experience that will come up, we're going to be Wednesday, March 25th and Thursday, March 26th. It's on that postcard in Kissimmee at the Gaylord. And we're not going to be back for another probably 3 or 4 years because we're on an 8-city rotation. We've been doing this for 5 years now. The last time we were in the region was in Miami in 23. But it's that great opportunity to at least have that one-on-one engagement with the brands and obviously the reps and the trade showrooms, but hearing directly from the brands. So with that, do you want to just jump in and start asking some questions?
Yeah, let's go. For sure.
Any questions before we get started about Design Edge or interior design community or Pam's program? Okay, we'll just jump right in. All right, I don't need my glasses. Why don't I have those? Let's see if I can do this without my glasses. No, it's all good. All right, so the first topic is on getting noticed and building relationships. Mm-hmm. So brands are approached by designers constantly. What actually makes a designer memorable, and how should established designers be positioning themselves to get on a brand's radar in a meaningful way? Seems right on point. Any thoughts about that?
Well, my initial thought about that is I know that we have access as designers. We have access to, and thankfully with sources like Interior Design Source, thousands of manufacturers that we can bring to the table and show to our clients. But one of the things that I noticed about 15 years ago in my design practice is almost like you start a project and you're like, I can choose from 1,000 different things. And that leads to a lot of, I'm not really sure what to do. Where do I go? What do I show them? Or let me look at everything and then cull down the choices. So I think that loyalty is really where you're going to start to get traction with brands. So I would suggest that you pick a number of brands that are like your core go-to brands, ones that have large depth of line, that have really interesting items on their, in their books, and start there and build the basis of your designs around your core brands, because what it's actually going to do is you're going to obviously get to know those brands much better, and you're going to build those relationships with your reps and with the brands themselves. And loyalty is actually going to get you, in my opinion, going to get you noticed by brands, because you're going to be more intimate. You're going to have those great relationships with the reps and with those higher ups. So that's what I would suggest, is to start to cull down those choices a little bit, so that you have your core brands that you go to first. Of course, we always want to have interiors that look special and unique and are, client centric, but that's where we can go out and pick those special pieces and make those the signature items in the design.
I love that. I love that. Laurie, before we give it to you, I want to ask anybody here, is anybody already doing that? Has anybody already, you have your core lines that you spend most of your effort on, and you'll bring in some ancillary lines to kind of finish out a project? Or because we've got such a small group, I really don't want it to just be talking at you. Please feel free to share what you're doing if you want to.
I'm Miss Nightingale, Nightingale, and I work with Lee. And one of the things I've done in my career is I work with Schumacher. So to speak to that very point, there were clients who were very loyal and spent quite a bit on yardage and multiple projects, and some ranging into the millions.
They were Schumacher loyalists.
Schumacher loyalists. And what the showrooms did is, when a new collection was coming out, they got first steps on it. They got to see it first.
Like a private viewing kind of thing.
Private viewing. And
Interesting.
we in corporate would cut certain samples to be able to give them that are not hanging yet, because they haven't the wings haven't been done, nothing has been done. So they feel very special and sort of rewarded
for their loyalty.
Because and we would do something that was coming out within 3 weeks, right? Not 3 months. So we would do that, and this way they could take it to their client and now have a story to tell. Nobody has seen this. They're seeing it now.
And you get to see it for the first time.
And then they get to see it for the first time. And then the client gets bragging rights, right?
And value as a designer. I mean, there's so many, we're always trying to prove our value to clients. And that's just another way that we can do that, which is we're showing you things that no one's seeing right now. It's exclusivity.
And they will never see it online that early.
Yeah.
They want access.
Is anybody else have that kind of ethos where you're focused on a couple of different lines? Because obviously one line can't necessarily take care of every project, but any other thoughts or feedback around that? Anybody?
You guys got some favorites, I'm sure, right? Some go-to brands that you go to for, your go-to accessories, right? Or other things. Yeah.
Andrea Colbert, Dominant Design. I definitely have some favorites. I could say like 5 or 6 favorites that I just naturally love and gravitate to. But I think it's a great point to like really start to think about it in that way and cultivate those relationships with the reps. That's really smart.
And along those lines, Lee,
I'd also add in too, I mean, that loyalty that Pam's talking about is so important in other ways too, in humanizing your relationship with these brands, in that they'll bend over backwards for you if you're someone, and it's not always money. I will tell you, I talk to brands all the time. It's not always money. It's also little things you do to show that you are particularly loyal to a brand. I know a designer in California, and she is so great at, after the project, she'll take her own personal photo that she is copyrighted by herself. So she's able to show brands, like, look at your work. Look at how it looks. You feel free to share this anywhere you want, on your blog, on the website. It gives them, first of all, they get to see what it actually is, the design, how it turned out, their product in place, but also that they have something to share. Look at what we did. And she does these little things to increase her relationship with the brand. And of course, those relationships go both ways. You want the reps, that treat you well. You want brands that are truly designer friendly, that you're not going to find it much less online and look embarrassed to your client. So, policing that on a regular basis so that you understand, which brands are really playing well with designers is really a great idea too. In that you have a lot of power in your choices. Remember that,
Any thoughts or feedback around any of that? Tell me if this sounds right. And this is what we usually, the night before a design edge, we have a reception for manufacturers. And I'd love to just see heads nod either no or yes about what I'm about to say. So I explain to the brands, I'm almost like, I share with them, take whatever you think you know about designers and kind of just throw it away. Because what your job over the next 2 days is to open your hearts and your minds, to give the attention to each individual designer that you're going to see over the next 15 hours, because they all have their own individual story. They all have their own, and I do this thing over here that is like the shelf in every design studio. It's the catalog of go-to resources. To me, it's more symbolic. Those are the folks that have passed the test, that have, as a designer, have your back. They've proven that not only can they give you the product, but they're supporting you when there's a service failure, or they're supporting you when there's information that you need, or they may be this crazy idea of access at 8, 9, 10 at night. Why? Because you're working that late, because your homeowner or your client is asking you questions at perhaps that hour. So it's this whole idea of who makes the shelf and who doesn't. And I implore the designers to go find their voice, to share with the brands what they need from either that category or from that line. Laurie and I have often talked about, if a brand has failed you, they may not even know, because you just go shop to the next brand.
Oh, yeah.
So is any of that resonating? Is it okay? I just want to make sure that we're in the right
I've got to tell
mindset.
you, we do that panel, and it's my favorite thing that we do, because the audience is the manufacturers. And we brought last time in Anaheim 3 designers up. We walked them through, like, from the moment you meet the brand all the way to the end, when you've been disappointed and you've decided to go somewhere else. We asked, like, a mic drop moment, how many of the brands reach out when you've chosen someone else, and it's very rare that they say, why are you not buying from us anymore? And I'm sure that, if this is a relationship business, we want the brands, the showrooms, the designers to get along better and to see each other as human beings who are navigating this together. I mean, we really can, I believe, gain more market share if you do the math on how many high-end homes there are in the country and how many individuals there are. There's enough for 7 projects for every designer a year, just from the top 5% in the country. So if we're just not getting that, we're not getting every one of those sales. Sometimes they're just going to Restoration Hardware and buying everything, right? So how do we gain more of those clients buying from us? We know we have a superior product. We know that, right? We know that what we do makes sense. The client is actually going to be happier in their home if they hire an interior designer. This is fact. So how do we just get those clients to trust designers and to buy through designers rather than retail sources? Mm-hmm. And that's what we want to see.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions about that, or we'll move on to the next? Okay, perfect. There is a difference between a transactional relationship with a brand and a true partnership. What does it take to move from one to the other, and who is responsible for initiating that shift?
Great question.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting question. And I think the designers here could probably expound on this. But one of the things that I've found is that you either talk to a middle person, which would be like a rep. So you are fully insulated from the brand. Or you work through, like I do, like I purchase from Interior Design Source. So you never really get that opportunity to speak to the higher ups in a brand, which I love what's going to happen here in the next couple months at the Design Edge event, because I think that's really important for those two people to connect and really be able to have some discussions about what's going on. Because I do feel like there can be very easily a disconnect, because we're always working through, we might be working through a customer service person, we might be working through a rep, we might be just doing it online. So there's a lot of human interaction that is getting lost in the translation. So I think getting those people in a room together is really needed.
Yeah. Do
oh my gosh, Pam, you're so. I just want to say, like, when we talked about this, little things like the money that they spend on catalogs that you don't want versus the samples that you do want, or the online resources so that you can look things up at night. It was watching the light bulb come off. Like, they are not hearing this directly from designers at all. It seems like common sense to you and I. We are dealing with these problems every day, but I'm telling you, they don't know.
Well, it's like everything. When folks are in an echo chamber, not really understanding who their clients are, you guys, then they're operating without all the factors, without complete understanding. So it makes sense that they wouldn't understand that unless we create that disruptive opportunity for designers to engage them directly, which is it's so needed.
And I think the designers here can speak to this, but it's whether or not we feel we're big enough to get their attention.
How many folks have had interactions directly with the owners and or senior executives of like brands that you work with often? Like can you name, anybody want to just raise a hand and name a brand they work with often? Like that, like I'm gonna pick on the Braves because I love them. Vanguard. Who here sources Vanguard or specifies Vanguard from time to time? Okay. How many folks have talked to Andy Bray or John Bray or their sister? I think her name's Laura, or Laura White, who's their director of marketing. This is pretty fascinating. Like, you would think y'all are spending your reputations on brands, and you would think that as intimate as y'all have to be with the homeowner, you would think that the owners of these companies should, of course, whatever's reasonable, but you would think we should have some degree of intimacy with y'all.
But it's not even just intimacy. I mean, they're not conducting any
type, right? Forget about intimacy, just a high five or right. Any kind of market kind of positioning. How about Palachek? How many folks have worked with Palachek in the past? David Bell, Scott Gregory. Do we know who those folks are? Do you know David and Scott? Have you met them in the past?
This was in Southern California.
Okay. Like Laguna, the design center? They had an event?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would actually put them on the spectrum more of direct engagement and, getting around. Laurie was saying this earlier. The numbers just don't add up. There are tens of thousands of designers, and there are tens of maybe hundreds of manufacturers. But that's why, the Skylers and the Emilios are so important. That's why, the reps are so important. But there's got to be a way that they have more of a finger on your pulse to understand what you need.
Because there's stuff that right? There's stuff that you're like, okay, their case goods have been having more breakage than usual, or this is going on, or that. I'm telling you, it doesn't always go to the top. They don't necessarily hear it. So this is such an interesting opportunity because we're served by having a better relationship with each other. We serve each other better.
Yeah.
So it just makes so much sense.
Or I hate to say it, but it's like, being able to vocalize, is it even appropriate? When was the last time you saw the rep from whatever company, but you want to be able to say that, because what you're really doing is you're helping that brand serve the community better. So it's kind of like Laurie and I always find ourselves in this pivot point of trying to give voice to the very people that need to disrupt the bad of what's happening in either a category or with a company. Otherwise, they have no idea. So it's like that old idea of, okay, the Samaritan's parable of, okay, am I going to do my part to help that brand out, or am I just going to stay silent and just go to the next one? We love y'all to have the voice to be able to share with these brands how they can be better for you.
And we're prepping them so that they're listening. Like, we're telling them, look, we're telling the designers this, we're telling you this, so that they're understanding to have those conversations. They're prepped.
Pam, you had a thought?
I think to Laurie's point too, we're also put in a weird position because I don't know about you guys, but I never tell my clients who the brands are because we don't want them shopping us. So we almost don't want to tell anybody the brands because if we're not, to Laurie's point, being protected as the trade
they could
resource,
just try to end around.
they can end around us. So if you want us to work together and talk about brands and have these relationships and say, this is why you should use this palette check, we have to be protected as well.
There's a whole nother discussion, and I don't even know if it's in here, about the right client.
Yeah.
But like, if you're going to have a client that's going to end around you to go directly to a brand, and that brand's going to let them do that, fired.
Yeah.
Like,
Agreed.
right? I mean,
but people are curious and people are
no,
so
of course,
too,
especially with all the access with e-com and all that.
Yeah.
Any other questions or statements? Okay. All right, 3. How much does a designer's digital presence, this is kind of funny that we're chasing our own narrative. How much does a designer's digital presence and portfolio actually influence how brands perceive and prioritize them? And what are brands quietly looking for that designers may not realize? So this would be a great brand question to be able to ask, brands. But do you have a thought about designers' digital presence and what a brand may be looking for relative?
I think this might be in Laurie's court, but I think this more speaks to doing collaborative brand deals or things like that with brands. And I think at that point, they are looking at your digital presence and whether or not you have an audience and a point of view and all those other things. But I think Laurie could probably speak to this a little bit more succinctly because it sounds like it's a brand collaboration question.
Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of ways to work with brands. Of course, a lot of designers that write into us are interested in licensing deals or ways to work with the brands that, and I know, Pam, even you could work with so many brands because it's such a value when you're at that point where you can teach. That is a missing component in interior design is this business knowledge that is needed in every showroom across the country. Every area that has the ability to show product also should be talking about business and how to get more of it and how to do right by our clients better. So there's lots and lots of ways to work with brands. And I will tell you, I work with a lot of them and their senior leadership teams. Numbers matter, but not as much as the work. I mean, they do look at portfolios to see if you're the right type of client, and it can actually help you with like pricing. It can help you with customer service. Like they do look at it a little bit, but it's not a deep dive into see how many followers you have, how many followers of those are fake, how many, all of the things. Sometimes, but rarely. I mean, I've seen designers being brought on all expense paid trips to, Italy, and they only have 3,000 followers. So I don't think it's a major factor, but it is something that brands look at when they're thinking about a designer as a total package for different things. There's lots of different events. There's manufacturers tours. There's, all sorts of really great things the brands try to do for our design community.
And this may be a little, I always it's called Design Edge for a reason, because I'm not afraid of being out there on the edge and pushing it a little bit. But I think of Manuela Morea when we were in Orange County, Laurie. And so Manuela, just self-selects to do a lot of work with Interlude. It's her vibe. She feels connected to that brand. It's got enough diversity for her customer base that she's typically finds herself doing a lot of work with Interlude. But she asked me an interesting question. She's like, I do so much work with Interlude, and because my customers are drawn to it. But when I don't find product that they have, I'm using my custom house in Orange County to build Interlude type product that can extend that experience in whatever room or whatever experience in the home. And it kind of punched me right in the face in a good way, in that, I don't know if you can get punched in the face in a good way, but like, it was like one of those kind of eye-opening moments where I called Shane McFadden at Interlude. He's a close friend. And I'm like, Shane, you don't even realize that out there and Manuela's probably not the only one, and probably not the only one for this brand, where it's like there's an experience that's being put together you're missing at Interlude the opportunity to extend that sale because you're not offering something in the lineup. But guess what? To this point that we're talking about, if you had a space in the ethos of Interlude where designers could come to you to suggest ways to extend the value of Interlude, and you had that open, safe space where designers felt like they had the opportunity to do that, then maybe your whole product team could be pushed in a way that would be more relevant to the designers and the designers' clients. So maybe that's kind of in the zone of what we're talking about, but not exactly what we were saying. But what is interesting to me, and right in the ethos of Design Edge, is being so connected to the brands in a way that they know you, you know them, and you feel comfortable to share with them what they're missing for your service to your homeowners, to your clients. And that's the relationship kind of goal that we have, that designers become collaborators and partners with the brands so that you're helping them be their best selves, and then you're having more solutions for your homeowners kind of idea.
Yeah, I love that. It's almost like I don't know if anyone would know where to go to contact someone in that manner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's, it's kind of, that's why we're on the edge out there trying to push this kind of collaboration. Laurie, any additional thoughts about that, or we want to move on to the next? Okay, awesome. Are there missed opportunities designers consistently leave on the table when it comes to building? So I was just talking about this. When it comes to building brand relationships at trade events, showrooms, or industry gatherings, are there missed opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's always, to kind of go back to one of the things we talked about in the beginning is, when you go to we were just talking about KBIS, right? And we were talking about how enormous that show was and how for a lot of people it was really overwhelming. And you almost have to, again, self-cull down, like what's your priority when you go to a trade show? What are those top 5 brands that you really want to have a connection with, a conversation with, that you want to learn about more or get in deeper with? And if you can approach even a trade show that way you can get the most meaningful relationships either started or continued or deepened by having those, 5 or 10 people that you absolutely need to prioritize to see. And I think that having those when you're fresh and you're not already
torched from
dying,
right,
and overwhelmed and information overload. I think that's one way, to this whole discussion, is how you can really make them a lot more meaningful to your work.
Yeah. I just out of curiosity, and I don't want to go down this tangent too much, but how many designers here, just show of hands, are doing total home? Like you'll do kitchen and bath, every room in the home? Do you do this? You do the whole home, or just furnishings or kitchen and bath? How about you? All of it? Some of it? All of it? All of it? Everybody? All of it? All of it? So do you feel like you have? Are there categories that you're missing? Are there categories that you feel like, I could use a few additional resources in a specific category? Have y'all thought about that? Or
Yes.
Yeah, always kind of looking for the new.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, I think you're all always trying to find those special things. I mean, you don't want the last house to look like the next house, look like the last house. So there's always that. Ooh, what kind of faucets can I find? What kind of, just.
Right, what's new and out there?
So many new things. I'm telling you, KBIS. Carolina, we just did KBIS. It was crazy. It was massive. It is overwhelming. You can't talk to everyone, but just seeing all of the new products, it's overwhelming. But I think that's how we stay current. That's how we, get what is the new thing coming out. I learned so much. The SKS booth had new refrigerators that have the big glass, the big spheres, the large spheres. That was unbelievable. And I found out that they have, they're going to be at Design Edge too, but all of their displays for the ranges are actually the same because it's owned by LG. They're the same displays that are in a Mercedes or a BMW. So all of your clients that drive luxury vehicles, they're going to feel very comfortable, and they're going to feel very intuitive to them because they're the same
Same
maker of
technology.
the same display.
Fascinating.
Which I thought was very interesting when you're talking about selling luxury appliances to your client. You need to kind of have these little nuggets to be like, this is going to be easy for you to use.
Yeah.
You know, because no one wants technology that they can't utilize, right? So that kind of thing is so important.
Cool. All right, let's move on to the next. Number 5, when a designer wants to deepen a relationship with a brand they already buy from, what is the most strategic way to approach that conversation?
Well, I mean, I think Laurie even touched on it earlier, which I think bears repeating, is to, kind of bring them into your world. So show them how you've taken your creative genius and put their products in final homes that people are living in.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of every project, you can certainly send them a photograph and say, thank you so much for helping bring this vision to life and being a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
Here's some pictures. And, I do this with some of my coaching clients, is like, go thank them.
Right.
Thank them for coming up with an amazing product. Show them how it looks like in a finished space. You're not only giving them that satisfaction of being able to see what you've created and how their products have helped you do that, but it's also, who doesn't like to be thanked?
Right.
Or what we do, I think we don't get it enough. So
your win is their win, vice versa.
Like if we did it together.
Yeah. Very cool.
I think sometimes that photo or that experience makes it up the line to corporate. And I think that the first thing they do is show it to the creative director that's responsible for the collection.
Mm-hmm.
And say, this is how it works, and this is how fabulous, and how grateful and happy the client was to be living in that space with you.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it real, right? Yeah.
It really elevates you to that brand. I'm telling you, it's the cheapest way to like build a close relationship with this brand is to thank them and send them a photo. And I know designers have mixed feelings about it. They're like, hey, they're not paying for that photo. So obviously your own photography that you're spending a lot of money on, you can keep for yourself. But if you took a photo yourself and you own the copyright to it, it means a great deal to them to see their product in a setting
coming to life.
You can dream up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the same thing that they could put together in their studio or with AI tools. To see how it is in the field is just, they love it. They love it. And to be tagged on social media, they love it. And I know they're not always reposting and doing the things they should. And we're teaching them at Design Edge to do that for things, they've tagged you. It's a big deal. They've like put their hand up for a high five. If you don't repost it, if you don't like it, if you don't comment on it, you're like leaving them hanging. So don't do that. So we're teaching them on their end too.
Good.
What is your thought on making someone a collaborator, a vendor, a collaborator?
Well, they can accept it or not, so they don't have to accept your invitation.
Did you hear that, Laurie? Did you hear the question?
Sometimes I will tell you, brands often have a PR agency that's handling their social media. So sometimes the brand is not as connected to the social as you would think. I think it's a bad idea. I think they should get a little bit more in the weeds with their socials and really build it out like a community. If I can stay in touch with over 100,000 designers, they should be able to also. So I'd love to see that happen more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Any questions about that so far? We've got just a couple more. Navigating trade programs and exclusivity. Trade programs vary widely in structure and value. How should an established designer evaluate whether a program is actually worth their loyalty?
Well, sometimes we have to go through a project to see the bumps to see where that loyalty lies. I've worked with brands where we had projects and they didn't have any samples. They don't give samples. That's not an option. You get a picture only. And then when something goes wrong, they are just like, sorry. And that's all you get. You just get sorry, or you don't even get sorry. You're like, no, you just get no.
Right.
And so sometimes unfortunately, you have to go through that pain. to figure out what's going to happen with that brand. And then, like to your point earlier, you just stop working with them. You don't call them up
It's
and
like,
say, I'm not working with you anymore. You just
stop. You
move
just go.
we don't have time. We just move on and we find somebody that can help us with
And then they're
whatever
not
it is.
even circling back saying, "Where'd you go?"
No, they don't. No.
So I also just throw out a tip too, is that I strongly believe in supporting showrooms. And I will tell you, it is such a shortcut to dealing with some of these problems because their volume is so much better than your volume could be directly.
Mm-hmm.
I've had designers break this out because like the pricing savings, a lot of designers want that direct price, stocking dealer price directly from the manufacturer. And it works out to typically like 11% or something like that. It is not worth the headaches. It is not worth the headaches. It is so much better to buy from a showroom where you are being supported and someone else can handle all of those procurement problems when they come up. I mean, I've had designers do all the math on that. And I will tell you, it's worth your time to just, buy from your showroom that you're in right now.
Right.
Because they will support you.
Right.
But still maintain that relationship with the brand because sometimes there's that thing that they can do. I've seen discontinued stock that was miraculously found for designer friends. Like I really have seen brands go above and beyond for designers that they know personally. So make sure you are one of those people that they know personally.
Right. Any questions, any thoughts? We'll keep going. Exclusivity can be appealing, but also limiting. How do designers think strategically about which brand relationships deserve that kind of commitment?
Is that what we just asked?
Yeah,
Answered?
I think we kind of talked about.
I skip when it's already been answered.
Okay, perfect. From the brand side, what do designers do that unintentionally signals they are a low priority account, and how can they change that perception? Okay, the do not do's of designers from a brand standpoint.
I can tell you that there are designers who are not bringing volume, but are also a pain in the ass. So that is what will make a manufacturer go, no, thank you. They're used to high volume. We have to know that. And they have a big head count. You have to think of every manufacturer has hundreds of employees that, they rely on, that is their overhead. They have to make salary every week. They have to make sure they're paying for those benefits. And so there's a huge responsibility on the brand side to make sure that their sales are good and robust. And so they offer, obviously a certain level of customer service to their biggest accounts, just like we would, right? We have our big clients. They're getting another level of customer service than we would somebody who comes in and says, I want you to pick colors. And then, I don't like that color. Can you give me 5 other examples of color greens so that you could send my way? You do the exact same thing that they would do, which is like, no thanks. So don't be that person. Be that person that can work well and understand their side as well as your side. Because, I think even people going to High Point, we drink champagne, we have appetizers. It's a beautiful showroom. Everywhere you look, it's gorgeous. But it represents human beings that are working very, very hard at their craft. And they really do need the sales too. And they have experienced quite a few showrooms closing down over the last years. And we want those manufacturers to remain robust, or we're not going to have the resources we have now. If they go direct in a different way, if they change their business model completely, we're going to lose them as well. So it behooves us to work better together.
Pam, some thoughts on that?
I mean, I just think just like anything else is like thinking about the brand and not wasting their time. So if you're going to get pricing, let them know if you're going to be in a standard finish or a premium finish, like just not making people go back and forth a million different times and pricing like 100 things when you're only going to pick one. I think it's just being respectful of their time. And then also, I think it was to Laurie's point, is just like when things go wrong, which they always do, is not freaking out, like just being very professional and being sure and being understanding to a point. Obviously you don't want to get stepped on and bowled over there, but you want to just realize that again, it's a person to person relationship and we're trying to work together to resolve that problem. So I think that conflict, how you handle that too.
Yeah. This is again, right in the sweet spot of the gap between brands and designers. It's like an empathy gap. It's like we're as a designer, we're in kind of our own ecosystem, and you're at the beck and call of your homeowners. You've got a ton of projects, and we're all just going a million miles an hour. The brands, there's, if we've got thousands of designers, we've got maybe hundreds of reps, and maybe we have dozens of brand ambassador, manufacturer, support system kind of folks. So it's set up to not have the level of engagement and access as just part of the system. There's too much demand for the amount of support. So I think just to be able to understand what a brand, when that request happens, what a brand is, how a brand supports you through the trade showrooms, just where that request goes and all the people it touches, just understanding that on the brand side, and the brands understanding that you're front and center with the homeowner and the level of demands that they have on you. That is what we're trying to really shine a light on, is creating voice for both the brands and how they support you, and the designers and how y'all need to be supported also. So I 100% right in the spot of where we need to be.
I will give you a hint. If you ever have any big problems, you can also come to me, because I will go direct.
That's a good
sometimes they don't like to say no to me because we have the numbers, So we have 125,000 designers. So if you're really in a bind and you're right, I'll advocate for you if at all possible. So make sure you message me, DM me. I'm happy to intervene and try to solve some problems if you need me. And that's part of what I do.
And Laurie is always very clear that she's not a coach, but she's definitely is heavy-handed when she needs to be with the folks that she has behind her. All right. What leverage does an established designer actually have in negotiating terms, pricing, or access within a trade program? And are most designers using it? Okay. Do designers have leverage?
I mean, you can try. I mean, that's the thing. I think we always assume that we don't have leverage.
Yes, I would agree with that.
So I think this question is great to give us permission to try.
Have voice.
For that leverage.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you've been using a manufacturer over and over again, I think that money spent gives you leverage. If you have a good following, that gives you leverage. If you have a portfolio, like these are some of the things that we've talked about before that give you leverage. But I'd be curious to see if either of you guys have other levers that we can pull that aren't the obvious ones, like money and a following and a portfolio.
Well, I mean, Pam has a coaching community. That is leverage. I mean, she's bringing multiple designers with her when she has an issue. So there's lots of leverage points, but really the big thing is relationships. If they know you, it's harder to let you down. So if you're showing up at Design Edge and you're making those relationships and they remember you have a real conversation, you really are establishing a real connection with them, it's harder for them to say no when they know you, right? So that is a big leverage point too.
Yeah.
That is 100% what I was thinking to myself. At the end of the day, it's hard to say no to people that that know you really well, that know that you're a loyalist, that know you're connected. It's hard to say no to you. So yeah, I'm 100% with you. Any other thoughts or comments about that? We'll move on to the next one.
It's all coming down to we need to be hanging out with the brass at the manufacturers, 100%. Right?
You're just making yourself known. Yeah. Exactly. All right, here's the last one on navigating trade brands and exclusivity. How transparent are brands willing to be about how their trade tiers work, and what should designers be asking that they typically are not?
What are your trade tiers?
Yeah. So they usually have like dealer, stocking dealer, like there's all sorts of different, they have an interior design tier, like I said, it varies on the brand, and there are some that have no tiers. It's a straight, like this is your trade price. Look at like Waker Pro has a trade price, 10% off, yay. Restoration Hardware sells their trade price, so to anybody, not even in the trade. So there's lots of different tiers. I don't think it's necessarily, I know a lot of designers want to be at that lowest tier. And what I'm trying to always educate is at that lowest tier, there's less margin. And so typically they want you to be DIY and not give any customer service. And that's probably what your showrooms already have, the best prices. So even if you're not the lowest priced available, you're getting that layer of customer service that is worth the extra percentage. So as long as you do want to hold design brands accountable on their published prices. And there are some really, really amazing brands who are really good about that. So the published price out there, they really police it and make sure that anybody who's lower than the map should be is taken out. And we want that. So, put pressure on them if you see things that are below what you're selling it for, because they should be doing their job to make sure that doesn't exist.
Right. How many folks have challenges with the pricing and wishing that there was more transparency and some clarity with you've had issues?
Perigold.
Oh, right. Perigold.
I think everybody, I could name brands right now that are probably that I know, okay, yes, you've had problems with the prices online are not. It's embarrassing when you've sent it to a client and then they can find it
anywhere
15% cheaper, 10% cheaper than you can price it, and you're allowed to make a profit on product, on service, and on design. There are lots of profit buckets in there. We have a designer that I just did a panel that she charges I think it's $800 maintenance fee on top of her flat fee. And that just is the extra things that the questions, and she charges that until they stop asking questions. And it kind of puts that period at the end of the project so that they don't want to ask any more questions. So they stop paying that $600, $800 a month and the maintenance fee. But it's above and beyond all those little extra questions that the client asks above and beyond the scope of project. So I think it's an interesting model, and I can see the psychology of sort of we're done when you're not asking me questions anymore, because as you can finalize the project and you still constantly are getting, well, how about this? And what if this? All of these little questions at the end.
From a pricing standpoint, I know with Perigold, have you ever been able to socialize, or do you even have access to the brands that are kind of suspect and violators to be like, hey, you're killing us here? Have you ever had that dialogue with the brands? You just pick something else. And those brands that you just picked something else, did they ever circle back? This is the tragedy. Okay.
That's the credibility of our business.
Of course it does, because you're putting a price out there, and even though that comes with a ton of service, they're shopping price, and then you just go to the next brand that's protecting you more. Okay. Got to be solved. Okay, into communication and expectation gaps. We got a couple questions, or a couple statements or questions here. Where do designer brand relationships most commonly break down? And is it usually a communication failure, a values mismatch, or something else entirely?
I think there's a host of reasons why things can break down, and it also depends on who you're buying from. For instance, I buy through IDS, so I'm, insulated from talking to the brands. It's whoever is handling that part of the process. So, I think it could be all of those things and more, for sure.
Laurie, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of time. How many times have you been like, where is my product? Where is it? Is it being made? Is it on its way? We get these questions all the time. It is very frustrating. I kind of wish some of the brands adopted technology. Should there be text messages going out to tell us where things are and when they're coming in? or if there's changes and delays. I mean, as my flight got delayed and canceled, I got a text message at midnight, your flight has been canceled. I was on the phone with them immediately to try to solve the problem. You know, it's those kinds of things like that help you perform better customer service to your own clients, to just kind of keep them informed. So this is an issue, and it's something that we have to have a voice with these manufacturers. So they understand you are the face. You are the one, you know, having the conversation with a client when things go wrong. And so that support is so needed to know where things are, to know what's going to happen, because you have to relay that to the client. And also, you're also in charge of when things get installed. So if you don't have the piece, it cannot be installed, and that might also trigger other installations. It's so imperative that we improve communication.
And is there anybody going to say? Oh, go ahead, please.
Why do you think they are not making those improvements? I mean, you don't need a designer to tell you that, right? It's pretty elementary. Like, this is just logistics.
But I do think there is something, and this goes back to our very first Design Edge, which was in Boston. We were going to launch in March of 2020, and that was COVID. And right on my birthday, March 10th, Trump gets on and we're shutting the country down. We didn't know if it was 2 weeks, 2 months, and it ended up being 18 months later. We had our first event in Boston. But I remember vividly, we had this panel, and right at the time, if y'all can go back to that crazy COVID time where everybody's locked up, demand is at a peak because everybody's looking at the cracks and crevices and old furnishings in their home, and ordering was stupid and crazy. But I remember Melinda Hedrick from Chatham talking to Zach Taylor at Wesley Hall, and she's like, "Why do y'all?" And this was straight up in the gap in the empathy gap that we're talking about. She genuinely is frustrated because her customers banging on her, wanting to understand where product is, but has no idea what Zach is going through. And Zach, on the other side, is just trying to figure out. And what he explained was, he said, "Melinda, I totally am hearing your need, and I wish we could take care of you. In a sofa, I've got the spring manufacturer, the yarn manufacturer, the fill manufacturer, the fabric supplier. I've got 13 different suppliers that are going into that sofa. And in COVID, if one person came down in the factory, the whole factory shut down. Those lead times are out the window." So it was this fascinating exchange. Now that was an extreme and during COVID, but it like highlights this reality where we don't know the answers, but what we have, it's like you have to teach them how to treat you by saying, "Look, you're killing me here. This is happening in my firm because of trying to work with you. How can you help me work with you better?" And that's the dialogue that just has to happen. And
but that's an email.
You even said it, Lee, that like
it's an email.
They had that story, if that designer was able to say, "This is what's happening," instead of nothing,
right, right,
at least be
right. There's an opportunity to do something about it.
What is going on, the reality.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go, Liz.
Alexa Hampton in New York had a situation where she had a very affluent, very wealthy client, and he said to her, "I will pay extra for shipping. I don't care what it is. I want that sofa here." Fortunately for her, the day before she had this conversation, there was an article on the front page of the New York Times showing the LA port of 3 miles of lineup of ships coming in.
Right.
And she said to him, "I don't know whether you saw the New York Times today or not, but your stuff is on one of those crates.
Containers.
Containers. And I don't care if you give me $100,000. There's no way I could get.
There's no way I can container hop
3 miles away from shore.
Right.
So unless you have some magical helicopter that could do this, this is what the story is.
Right.
She explained, and it made the penny drop for him in a big way. It was like, oh, and she said to him, "You're not the only one. Trust me."
Right, and I think that is what we're all just trying to strive for. Right. On the brand side and the designer side, it's like creating that understanding, because humans are investing the time to explain what is happening.
Right.
And I think that's the big gap.
But she got a lucky break because the New York Times
Right.
had this giant story
Right,
about what was going on.
right.
You know, one of the things that I say is communication is integral to a luxury service. So we're always constantly communicating with our clients. And I think the brands need to do the same, because how many times have we gotten this is delayed a week, and then it's delayed another week, and then it's delayed another week. And you're like, is it just that you can't get something? Because if you can't get the
Tell us
stretcher
why.
or the thing,
What's
just
going on?
tell us.
Yeah.
Like I said, that spring conversation could have been solved in an email.
Right.
But the email never came.
Right.
So that's the other point, is just tell us what the hell's going on, so that we can
manage the expectations of the client.
We can tell our clients, because when you say, I don't know, 16 times, you look like you're not a professional, which is the worst thing you can do to a designer, is not be in charge of the details.
It's reputational liability as a designer. It degrades
every time you keep saying, I don't know, because they're not telling me. Because then it's like, then you're aligning with a brand that doesn't have that integrity.
100%. And I think everybody's running in their own separate lanes so fast, they're not even having that empathy to understand the impact that they're having on the very people that are relying on them.
Yeah. We feel like we're on the front lines.
Honestly, Pam, that's 100% why we're doing what we're doing with Design Edge, and why we want it to be so different than anything we are seeing. Coming back from KBIS, it was wonderful and busy and overwhelming, and absolutely very difficult to build relationships. We did a tour, and our tour was with direct manufacturers, which was great. We got our designers to meet some of those manufacturers directly and senior leadership. But that typically does not, those designers were on their own, never would, we had made the appointments, we had it all lined up before we came in, it just wouldn't have happened. They just have too many people to meet. And that's what we're trying to do, is once they know your businesses and how you run, I believe this will change. I believe we will get better at this.
Agreed. Brands have internal pressures and timelines that designers rarely see. How can understanding the brand side of the table make designers more effective partners and better advocates for themselves?
Just make us a part of the
conversation. We just talked about that.
Just talk to us.
When a product arrives damaged, delayed, or wrong, the client relationship falls on the designer. How should designers be managing brand accountability without burning the relationship? I'd like to lead on this real quick. So I was punched in the face in oh my God, that's tragic. With one of Laurie's designers, Shelley Hudson, in Huntington Beach. And I'd love to see a show of hands of how many of you build in margin on each of your projects, expecting that you're going to have to be coming out of pocket from your margin for something that's going to either go wrong on that the homeowner has missed or that the brand has missed, and you're building into your project. You're doing that? You do that? Contingency. Yeah. Is everybody doing that to a degree? Ish? Sometimes?
Yeah, because, this came up even about design fees, is that we price on the best case scenario instead of the worst case scenario. And we get burned every time, and we never realize that the best case scenario has never, ever happened.
And what was compelling to me about that is you've got a homeowner that usually is not that they usually are well capitalized. You have a brand that's usually well capitalized, and the designers in the middle that's usually the least capitalized of the three.
Taking the hit.
Yeah. And the idea that the third, that you guys have to build in the margin when you're making the least margin out of everyone is just something that seems completely unacceptable to me. And so I think that that the brands, I don't even know that brands know that you're building in margins to your projects, expecting that there's going to be a failure, that you're going to have to be picking up, that you really shouldn't have to. Right. Anyway, that was just something that had a real impact on me.
We had a scenario at that same event with Shelley's group, and she's like, I wish the brands would understand, even if they tell us to donate it, we still had to pay for receiving. We still have to pay for it to be moved. It's like
and
$300 every
disposed
time.
and disposed.
So,
Yeah.
And this also brings just into a discussion too, because I've had this discussion many times, is the difference between markup and margin. And to understand that financially as a designer, because you guys are basically, if you're having problems continually to keep up, it's because you're going on markup and not on margin. And so you're not, at the end of the day, really making enough money to sustain your business. So that's just another.
You want to be making it a minimum of 40% gross profit margin. So there's calculations. You can go online and figure out where you are, even through QuickBooks, but you do want to be making overall design fee, product, all the things you're selling on that product, 40% gross profit, at least, to have a profitable business. And so that's what you should be shooting for.
What do brands wish designers understood about how to communicate with, what do brands wish designers understood about how to communicate with them, and what do designers consistently get frustrated about that brands may not even be aware of? I'm talking about a lot of that, but
well, I can't speak about the brands. Yeah.
I'll go to the last. As the industry evolves, what does the future of designer-brand relationship look like? And what are designers who thrive? What are the designers who will thrive doing differently right now? So, I mean, that's an interesting. My will and intent is that, as intimate, going back to what I was saying earlier, as intimate as you guys have to be with homeowners, that brands have some kind of internal support system that is supporting each of the designers that are loyal to them, and the brand and the trade showrooms supporting through you guys, through the IDSs out there, the whole experience. I believe that as we're seeing, NKBA, just the National Kitchen and Bath Association, just put a stake in the ground in High Point Market, and they've brought several brands to High Point Market. I think we're going to see more of a convergence of kitchen and bath and home, of home furnishing brands at KBIS, at kitchen and bath brands in High Point, and that at the trade showroom level, that we're going to start seeing kitchen and bath and furnishings in more, shared under one roof, or at least collaboratively, more and more. So I do see a convergence there. But what needs to absolutely happen is the brands need to have more of an intentional support system in place for designers around the country. That's just my
I also think it's really important to note that you're all sitting in this beautiful showroom, and you should know with the cost of real estate changing in the last years, that it's become very expensive to own and operate a showroom. And so as a result, there are a lot of showrooms that have not made it. So if you love your local showrooms and you want to see them, you've got to support them, because it's really tough for them to still exist. Think of the amount of square footage they need to have the amount of products for you to be able to bring the client over and get them to sit on the sofa and see what the light actually, the chandelier looks like and the size of it. And if we want our showrooms to exist, we have to be loyal to the showroom too. And that's just a fact. And we're seeing more and more, the trend, unfortunately, is more and more of them are closing because of the cost of real estate.
Pam?
I think it just comes back to quality over quantity, right? So, having our favorites and deepening those relationships. We were talking earlier about just how AI is changing the landscape in general. And, I'm already seeing this sort of backlash of people wanting that tactile, one-on-one, like meaningful connections. And so that's how we're really going to navigate all of these things, is by having those great one-on-one connections.
Human interaction. Yeah. Human engagement. Yeah. Any thoughts or any questions or I hope this was of value to you guys, and you were able to glean some things and hear. From my perspective, I love the overarching message to be: designers need to find their voice with the brands and know that you have one. And it's really telling that the owners and senior executives are willing to load up and come to you. They're not coming to just show product. They're coming to really engage because they are relying on third-party feedback for how they should be articulating their brands, what new collections they need to be